Good morning, and thank you all for being here today to talk about the important resolution of this case from the legal standpoint. Anyway, we're obviously here to honor the memory of Zachary Martin Polsenburg, and we want to talk about the resolution of the case and how we got here. Firstly, welcome to Aloya, Rowland, Lubell, and Morgan law firm. I'm Frank Aloya Jr., and I grew up in Southwest Florida. And as a child, I played on these sports fields. I remember very vividly the conditioning drills of the summer football season and year-round baseball in the heat. And I remember what it was like to feel dehydrated and tired. And thankfully, I never had to experience what Laurie and her family had to experience. We're talking about a death that was completely and totally preventable. And so when this case came to us, it spoke to us. It was something that we felt very, very compassionate about, and we wanted to help this family. I have teenage daughters of my own that are active in sports, and we have to make sure that this death and the circumstances that led to it never happens again. And while we have a tremendous amount of compassion for this cause at our law firm, in the law business, compassion can only get you so far. You have to have talent and trial skills in order to reach a resolution of this magnitude. And that's why I am very proud to introduce to you my law partners, Ty Rowland and Evan Lubell, who shepherded this case through its resolution. I'm blessed to have what I consider to be the two finest trial lawyers in Southwest Florida as my partners. I'm going to turn it over to Ty now.
Good morning. My name is Ty Rowland. Thank you for being here this morning, and thank you, Frank, my partner Evan Lubell, Jack Morgan, who's not here yet, and thank you also to the team of people at Aloya, Rowland, Lubell, and Morgan that worked so hard and made this result possible. We have an extraordinary personal injury team led by Danielle Stoker. Much of the team, including Danielle, have been involved working at Laurie's side from day one. This is, in some ways, has to be deemed a positive day for our community because change has been made, and the look back is extraordinary. Because if you look back at this from day one might wonder how anything could possibly change. So in that regard, it is a very positive day for our beautiful community. It's also a sorrowful day because anytime we talk about this case, we're not really talking about a case, we're talking about a horrendous tragedy. We're talking about a mother, a family that lost a perfect son, a perfect, beautiful brother. So make no mistake, it is a sorrowful day anytime we have to relive the events of June 29th, 2017. On that day, Zach, all 6'4", over 300 pounds strong offensive lineman at Riverdale, went to the summer conditioning program. Happy, healthy, prepared to engage in something that he was so passionate about. He loved the game of football. Unfortunately, on that day, Zach got hot. Not only did Zach get hot, Zach suffered from heat illness and ultimately a heat stroke. Zach was 107 degrees by the time he got to the hospital. Zach passed away on July 10th, 2017. When I met Laurie for the first time, I met a mother that was grieving, beside herself in sorrow, confused, and yet oh so determined to understand what happened to her perfect boy. And that was the mission from day one. I'm very sad to say that I never met Zach. I wish I did. I only met his family after tragedy struck. And when Laurie met me, the mission was not to file a lawsuit, was not to seek money damages. The mission from Laurie was to find out what happened to my son. It doesn't make sense. And she was right, because this was needless. So we embarked upon that mission to determine what the facts were, and as we said from the very first day, the facts will lead us where they may. And what we discovered, the more and more and more we learned, is that Zach should still be with us. With tub, water, and ice, Zach would still be here with us. 2 years later is when we filed the lawsuit. Not 2 months, 2 years later is when we filed the lawsuit. And it was part of Laurie's mission of effecting change. That was the purpose. A systematic effort to effect change to help our community to make sure that this never, ever happened again. So we filed a lawsuit. We did that in federal court. We filed a lawsuit under a 1983 statute alleging a deprivation of life, in this case, of Zach's beautiful life. As some of you may recall, that case was dismissed by a federal judge. We respect that judge. We respect that judge's opinion. We brought that case because we felt and still believe it was meritorious, but we understand the judge's analysis. Essentially, the judge dismissed the case, citing essentially that it didn't rise to the level necessary of a 1983 federal claim. But as I said at that moment, upon the dismissal, we were undaunted. Laurie was undaunted. We moved the case across the street, essentially, from the federal courthouse to the state courthouse that you can see from where we're standing. One of the things that federal case did, I believe, though, was bring some needed national and global attention to this story. I would urge you to, for example, watch the HBO sports special done by Bryant Gumbel and Soledad O'Brien. It's a 12-minute piece, Overheated. I'd urge you to go to our website and watch that piece if you haven't already seen it. What happened to Zach didn't only happen to Zach. It happens around the country and warranted global and national attention. Laurie was undaunted. We moved forward with our case in state court, and ultimately that case has been resolved. As you know, the case was approved unanimously, and I believe that's very important, unanimously by our local Board of Education, our school district that we respect, our school district that I entrust with my children on a daily basis, our school district that I am proud to say is moving in the right direction, is embracing the notion that things have to change. And I know Laurie intends on using some of the things they've done and some of the things that we hope they still do as a model to be seen and followed throughout the country. Here's how the case settled, and here's what essentially the terms of the settlement are. First of all, there's going to be an annual game now in Zach's honor. That annual game will be held likely in the spring, and that's by Laurie's doing. Everyone in Southwest Florida understands how competitive high school football can be. Those games are fun, Friday Night Lights. Laurie did not want to take away from the competitive nature of the fall games. Laurie chose to have the annual Zach Martin game in the spring for a number of reasons. Number one, she felt the spring would be more conducive time-wise. As summer's approaching, the heat's approaching, tub, water, ice. It's a perfect opportunity to remind people. Those are the questions that they need to be asking. So there will be an annual Zach Martin football game here in Lake County. A portion of the proceeds of every one of those games will go to the Zach Martin Foundation, which is dedicated to being hip. Be hip, be educated, heat, illness, prevention. We've got it here, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Great. There was also a monetary piece of the settlement, as you know. The case was settled for $950,000. That's monumental in terms of there being a sovereign cap that applies to these cases. A sovereign cap is this: the idea that a state actor, a sovereign, in this case a governmental entity, the Lee County School District, no matter what it does, a governmental entity, the damages for which it will be responsible in a situation like this are literally capped at $300,000. Let me repeat that. Regardless of what a governmental agency does in the state of Florida in a case like this, the damages are capped at $300,000. Short of going forward with the case, reliving the case over and over, securing a verdict, taking that verdict with lobbyists in tow to Tallahassee, and having legislation passed to allow a payment over and above the $300,000 cap. The other alternative is that, in this case, the school district make a voluntary payment over $300,000, and that's in fact what occurred. The school district voted again unanimously to pay $650,000 over the cap for a total of $950,000 for the settlement of this matter. As I have said before, there is no closure and there never will be closure for Laurie and Zach's family. But this is a monumental day. We take the safety of our children very seriously. Where they live, work, play, go to school, they should be safe. I know the school district would echo, I would hope, these comments, that it is incumbent upon them to create an atmosphere that is safe and conducive for learning. Whether you're learning geometry or you're learning X's and O's on a football field or a soccer field, it is to be safe. Now, many people would say that they take safety seriously. The proof is here that we acted on it. And more importantly, the proof is here that Laurie acted on it. Laurie acted on it. And by her efforts, laws have changed. Laws that some would have said 2 years ago, there is no way. And she has proved everyone wrong. And with that, I'll introduce my partner, Evan Lubell.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. This is a very important day for Laurie and for our entire community. I'm going to focus more on the law and the legislation that's been changed. The Zachary Martin Act, that is now law in the state of Florida, signed into law by Governor DeSantis on July 1st of this year. When Laurie came into this office, my partners Frank and Ty, who were standing next to me, both stated to me, how does this still happen in this day and age? Change needs to be needed here. Change needs to be made. So we didn't see this as a case of how much money can the law firm bring in for the death of a child. Our law firm prides itself in protecting the children of our community. And in this case, it wasn't just through the legal avenues, it was through the legislature and through Laurie's extraordinary efforts. We knew change was needed, but change doesn't happen automatically. A lot of effort goes into change. Laurie's efforts made change in this community, and will hopefully make change in the rest of this state, in the rest of the states of this country. Laurie lost her son. And it takes a team. It takes a community to affect the type of change that Laurie affected here. So no doubt, Laurie was the tip of the spear. She spearheaded everything. But there were a team. This was a collaborative effort to affect systematic change in our community. It takes a parent who is able to get out of bed in the morning and just get dressed, even though her son is no longer with her. It takes a mother who doesn't get to hear her son come home from school and say, "Hi, Mom, I love you." It takes a team. And yes, it takes attorneys. And we're proud to be whatever small part of that team that we were. So this wasn't your typical battle, plaintiff versus defendant lawsuit. This was a collaborative effort. That includes the school district. That includes Senator Keith Perry out of Gainesville, who spearheaded this law and this legislation, and in fact helped get the legislation named in Zachary's name, because he knew how much work Laurie had put in and dedicated her life. This is her life's mission. Her life's mission is to make sure no other child, no other parent loses a child and has to go through what she goes through on a daily basis. I know how hard she fought. I went with her to Tallahassee. We both spoke in front of the Florida legislature. She spoke passionately about the need for change. And eventually, we were successful, or I should say Laurie was successful. And Governor DeSantis did sign the Zachary Martin Act into law on July 1st, 2020. Let me tell you a little bit about the law, because it's simple. It's simple. It's simple to prevent these needless types of deaths. Two main components: monitor heat stress and AED requirements, automated external defibrillators. Heat stress, which is what we're mostly talking about today. Well, what can we do to monitor football players out in the Florida sun in the summer to make sure they don't get overheated? And forget about heat stroke, which is what caused Zach's death. We want coaches, we want personnel, we want athletic trainers to be trained to recognize when someone is starting to suffer from heat stress, so it never gets to the point of heat stroke. And there are some very easy fixes that are now part of the law, that the law requires that schools follow. Schools have to have something called a wet bulb globe thermometer. A lot of people aren't familiar with that. It is not a regular thermometer. It's different. It measures what the conditions are in direct sunlight. It takes into factor humidity, wind speed, sun angle. It's not the same as the heat index, which are totally different. So it's very simple to look at your wet globe thermometer and then see what the temperature is, and then there are now very clear guidelines. If it's over this temperature, you've got to practice indoors, right? If it's over 92 degrees on that wet bulb globe thermometer in air conditioning. If it's a little lower, 87 to 90 degrees, you may be able to practice outside, but there's a maximum amount of time. These are common sense guidelines. No student on a football field practicing per this law will ever be denied a water break. No student will ever be denied a water break. High school students, youth students, and not just football players, by the way. This is not just for football players. This is for outdoor sports, right? This is for my partner's children who play soccer. My daughter who was did gymnastics and cheerleading. Kids know when they're thirsty. They know when they need water. They know when they need a break. There are shady areas designated. There are cooling zones that are now required. As my partner Ty said, TWI, tub water ice. It's like when we were kids, drop, stop, and roll. It's very easy to remember. TWI, tub water ice. Dr. Casa, who you would see in the HBO special that was done by Soledad O'Brien, makes a statement that I think it's encouraging and it's also heartbreaking at the same time, which is heat stroke death in this situation is 100% preventable. If a student or an athlete or a student athlete reaches their body temperature, they reach a certain temperature, if you get that student's body in a tub of ice water within 10 minutes and bring their temperature down below 104 degrees, there is a 100% chance that that student athlete, that son, that brother is going to live. Rest breaks, okay? We don't go for 3 hours in the Florida sun with these types of temperatures without giving breaks. We need training, okay? It's not enough to have the tub at the field. You need someone trained in cold water immersion and what the proper protocols are in doing that. And these are now all requirements under the law, all because of the efforts that Laurie has spearheaded. Where are the AEDs? Where are they located? Does someone know how to use them? These are mandates. Every school has to have an emergency action plan. What do we do in an emergency? It's not the time to think of what to do when the emergency is happening, because then it's too late. Time is precious. A student or a student athlete who is starting to suffer from heat stress, the cooling has to begin immediately. You can't wait for the EMTs to get to the field. The cooling has to start immediately. That's a requirement of the law. This law protects high school student athletes in the state of Florida. I saw this entire path to change. I saw one determined woman and mother make this all happen. But I want you all to remember this is important. We're all human. People get apathetic over time. So it is vitally important that we don't just remember this today. It was so important that we would not resolve this case without an agreement to have an annual game to honor Zach's legacy and to remind people in our community of what happened and to keep this in front of mind so it never happens to another mother or father again. It will show us how precious our children's lives are and how easily that all can be taken away from us. So, with all that said, it is my great honor to have worked with and to introduce to you Zach's mom, Laurie Giordano.
Good morning. Today brings the end of legal action through the collaborative efforts of the school districts of Lee County, attorneys Ty Rowland and Evan Lubell, my husband Ed, and myself. So today brings as much closure as one could expect given our loss. Closure is a word that makes people feel good, yet it is not a word used to describe a wound that is still open, nor will ever fully heal. We face each day without Zach, and we miss him more every day. It may seem odd that we are here today discussing exertional heat stroke in winter when temperatures are cool. However, my experience has taught me that now is the time for hard work to take place so that new federal laws can be enacted before another child loses their life next summer. We teach children a simple safety measure, such as stop, drop, and roll, as Evan mentioned, and that knowledge has saved many lives. In the same way, it is important to think about exertional heat stroke prevention by teaching cool first, transport second to students, parents, athletic directors, coaches, principals, and the media. I want to thank the firm of Aloyo Rowland and all the staff. I appreciate your compassion and expertise in helping me fight for student athlete safety and how you fight for the youth of Southwest Florida and beyond. I want to thank those in the Florida legislature who sponsored a bill to protect Florida's student athletes and who voted for change, as well as the community support and those who have been by my side. I also want to thank the media who have not let this slip out of the light. News is a quick cycle, but you have kept awareness alive. I want to thank Soledad O'Brien and Real Sports with Brian Gumbel and Dr. Doug Casa and the Corey Stringer Institute for bringing national and global attention to exertional heat stroke. I also want to say thank you to my husband, Ed, for his unwavering support, and to my family and friends who have stood by me and never gave up. And to the moms and dads I have connected with, who have lost their child to exertional heat stroke. You give me the strength to continue to fight. And these laws are truly our laws. So while there is closure in some regards, I am fighting for your kids. And that fight will not stop. I look forward to bringing about national change as well. We did it in Florida, and we will do it in every state to ensure a future where no parent loses their child due to exertional heat stroke. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to go to the agenda that we have for interviews, and we will be spreading out. If you have the folder that has your designated time, if you can go to someone, we will connect you with the person that you'll be interviewing at that time. I'm also available. I'm Steve if anybody needs anything. Thank you.